Today is Wednesday, October 9th. What to know about Hurricane Milton as it heads towards Florida and prompts one of the largest evacuations in the state's history. And how the FBI stopped an Election Day terror plot. Also, a so-called Godfather of AI was just awarded for his work, while also warning about its dangers. Plus, what Uber is doing to promote electric cars, which NFL team just fired its head coach in a surprise move, and does listening to music help you work? What the latest study found. Those stories and even more news to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Hurricane Milton is expected to make landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast late tonight and could make a once-in-a-century direct hit on Tampa and St. Petersburg. It's already prompted one of the largest evacuations in the state's history. Around 5.5 million people have been told to leave under evacuation orders. And as you might imagine, that's led to jammed highways and drained gas stations as people rush to get out of town. President Biden urged people in Florida who could be most impacted to, quote, evacuate now, adding that it's a matter of life or death. He canceled an overseas trip to instead oversee the government's response to the storm. Hurricane Milton, at last check early this morning, was still a powerful Category 5 in the Gulf of Mexico, though it is supposed to weaken some before making landfall, still, though, as a major hurricane. And while some forecasters showed last night that it might hit a little south of Tampa Bay, saying it's hard to predict exactly where it will land, that region is still highly vulnerable to storm surge, which is when the intense winds push a mass of water onshore. Tampa Bay has not had a direct hit from a major hurricane for over 100 years, as in 1921. To make matters worse, we're talking about Florida's west coast that was still cleaning up from Hurricane Helene that hit less than 2 weeks ago. All that debris that crews just can't get to in time could become dangerous flying projectiles. And it's not just Florida's west coast bracing for impact either. There are storm surge and hurricane warnings on Florida and Georgia's east coasts as well. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis warned large portions of the state could suffer serious damage as the storm will likely go across the Florida peninsula and exit on the east side into the Atlantic Ocean, likely still as a hurricane. He said the state now has probably the largest National Guard mobilization in advance of any storm in Florida history. We'll continue to update you throughout the week. The FBI says an Afghan man living in Oklahoma was planning an attack targeting large crowds in the U.S. on Election Day next month. Court documents say the 27-year-old was inspired by ISIS and had obtained firearms, and that after his arrest, he admitted he was expecting to die as a martyr. He's been charged with conspiring to carry out a terrorist attack. The man came to the U.S. on a special immigrant visa in 2021, a month after the U.S. withdrew from Afghanistan. Authorities were reportedly able to discover and stop the plot with the help of confidential sources and an undercover FBI agent. The FBI director said terrorism is still the agency's number one priority, and it'll use every resource to protect the American people. Once again, the federal government has spent far more money than it brings in. The latest report from the Congressional Budget Office says the U.S. budget deficit topped $1.8 trillion in the latest fiscal year. In other words, tax revenue failed to keep pace with the rising costs of government programs and ballooning interest on the national debt. And America's reliance on borrowed money is not expected to end anytime soon, regardless of who wins the election next month. Both former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris are proposing new tax and spending plans that are estimated to add trillions more to the deficit over the next decade. A new analysis from the nonpartisan group Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget said this week Harris's plan would add $3.5 trillion, while Trump's would add double that, hiking the deficit by $7.5 trillion in the next 10 years. That said, both candidates' proposals are relatively vague and often depend on Congress. The nation's biggest regulated water and wastewater utility company has been hacked. American Water provides services to more than 14 million people in 14 different states and on 18 military installations. And now it's stopped billing customers as it deals with this cyber attack, and it's also shut down certain systems to contain the problem. The company says staffers are working around the clock to investigate. Separately, in a landmark move, the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, finalized a rule that requires water utilities to replace pretty much every lead pipe in America within the next decade. The rule also tightens the amount of lead allowed in the nation's drinking water and creates the first ever national requirement to test for lead in schools that rely on water from public utilities. It's meant to eliminate a major source of a neurotoxin that is especially dangerous in children, though this rule is expected to cost tens of billions of dollars. It comes nearly 40 years after Congress determined that lead pipes pose a serious risk to public health and banned them in all new construction. For more information about how to check if your home has lead pipes and what to do about it if it does, check out the link in today's episode notes on thenewsworthy.com. All right, we have more news for you still coming up, but first, thanks to our sponsor. I launched this podcast and the business behind it nearly 7 years ago at this point, and I've learned that running a growing business means getting the insights you need where you are. So if you want to start a business or you're already years in like me, Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Seriously, you can launch with it, and then no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take that business to the next level. No wonder Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify's the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. In fact, even as a customer, I often notice my favorite brands and companies using Shopify at checkout. And I so appreciate how easy the process is from that side as well. So it just continues to build trust with customers. And there's nothing that means more to me and this business than gaining and keeping listener and customer trust. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout brands like Allbirds, Skims, Mattel, and many more use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/newsworthy, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/newsworthy to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/newsworthy. Now back to the news. A man known as a Godfather of AI has won the Nobel Prize in Physics. Geoffrey E. Hinton shared the award with fellow researcher John J. Hopfield. The two of them explored new ways to analyze large amounts of data by using artificial neural networks that imitate the way the human brain recognizes patterns. These networks form the basis of how a lot of the internet works and helped lead to the development of artificial intelligence tools currently exploding in popularity like ChatGPT. The two started their research separately in the 1970s and 80s during a time even before the internet. Both scientists made breakthroughs with neural networks that helped make the field more popular, especially as digital networks became more widespread. Now, virtually every tech-related business uses them. But now Hinton has concerns about AI. He's compared it to splitting the atom, which led to huge scientific advancements, but also the atomic bomb. Even while reacting to the Nobel news, Hinton said he worries about, quote, systems more intelligent than us that eventually take control. Still, Hinton also believes AI will help humanity by improving healthcare and increasing productivity. TikTok's legal problems keep piling on. The latest, a bipartisan group of more than a dozen states sued the social media company, saying it's harming kids and their mental health. California and New York are leading these claims against TikTok this time. The states accuse the platform of putting in features designed to get kids addicted. Think the endless scroll, late-night notifications, and beauty filters. TikTok, though, calls these types of claims misleading and inaccurate and says it already has plenty of safeguards in place to protect children. The company added it had been working with states for years to address their concerns, so the lawsuits came as a bit of a surprise. Already, various other state lawsuits have been filed against TikTok, and the federal government has also sued the company for illegally collecting kids' data. On top of that, Congress passed a law that says TikTok's Chinese parent company must sell to a non-Chinese owner by January of next year or be banned in America. So TikTok is currently fighting that in court. To be continued. Ride-sharing app Uber wants more drivers to go electric and more riders to choose electric cars. The company said it will start allowing users to request rides only in EVs, and users will be able to change their settings to prefer electric vehicles by default. Uber also unveiled a special AI chatbot designed to help drivers transition to EVs. The chatbot will answer drivers' questions about electric vehicles, including concerns about range and maintenance. It can also recommend specific cars based on a driver's location and preferences. Uber developed the AI chatbot with OpenAI, basing it on ChatGPT. The feature should be available early next year. All of this is part of a longer-term strategy to make Uber more environmentally friendly. By 2040, the ride-hailing service wants all of its drivers to have electric vehicles and has promised $800 million in driver support to make it happen. The New York Jets became the first NFL team to fire its head coach this season. Robert Saleh was let go 5 games into the season, a little more than 3 years after he took the job. The Jets are 2-3 this year, a disappointing start for a team that had Super Bowl hopes. 3-time MVP quarterback Aaron Rodgers returned from injury to lead the Jets' offense, which was expected to have more firepower. But the team has struggled to score in the first part of the season. Still, the move came as a surprise, especially to the coach. Saleh said the firing blindsided him. The news was delivered just 2 days after the team lost a close game to the Vikings in London. And Jets owner Woody Johnson has never fired a coach in the middle of a season in the 25 years he's owned the team. Defensive coordinator Jeff Albrecht will take over as interim head coach. He'll try to turn the Jets around. October is always a busy time in American sports. It's the only month of the year when all 4 major sports leagues play. The NHL started its season with a triple header last night, and the NBA returns in 2 weeks. And that's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Work Wednesday, when we break down one interesting career or work-related news story every Wednesday. But first, a quick break. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. As I've been using it, I've learned so much about how my metabolism and body works, and I love how easy and fun Lumen is to use. Again, all you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll see what's going on with your metabolism. Then on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you get real-time data and recommendations. Your metabolism is actually your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. This is the type of technology that used to only be available to top athletes in clinics, but now Lumen makes lab-level metabolic testing accessible. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/newsworthy to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/newsworthy for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Okay, now back to Work Wednesday. So this has been a long time debate. Does listening to music help or hurt how much you can get done at work? At least one recent study found music can help. Specifically, it says the kind of music you know and like best can help you better process memories and improve your mood. Researchers at Georgia Tech found this by looking at the impact music had on the brains of volunteers. They said the combined effect is a boost in productivity. You might say familiar music helps people get in a groove at work. That said, the researchers found unfamiliar music or novel music can help in other ways too, helping people stay on task longer. They're not sure exactly why, but one theory, surprises keep the brain alert, jump-starting it out of a known rut, which may give you a bit more stamina. Now, this doesn't necessarily apply to everyone, and various research has had different findings over the years. In another study, machine operators became less productive when listening to relaxing music, so researchers suggested a faster tempo instead. Another one found surgeons operating while hearing classical music were both faster and more accurate. But of course, any type of music that annoys you probably won't be very helpful, and if certain music makes you happy, well, that might help. All right, thank you so much for listening today. We will catch you up on more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.